helping us. That's
Oh, okay, thank you. Public comment is now closed. We'll go next to our item number 5, which is the business item. A, discuss and give directions as needed on the topic of homelessness and where people can be located. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was placed, well, the meeting was called at the request of Councilmember Campbell. And, just here to certainly provide a status report if the council desires and/or answer questions.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Campbell, lead the way.
Yeah, thank you. If I may, as a point of personal privilege, since I called this meeting, I would like to explain why I called this meeting, if that works.
Yeah, you've been recognized.
Thank you. I believe the city of Seaside can move the location where sleeping in vehicles is temporarily permitted while continuing to provide for the public's health and safety. We can move it from the Roberts Lake area to a location on the former Fort Ward, specifically the parking area immediately west of the building at 2699 Colonel Durham Street, for a period of no longer than 120 days, limiting the number of vehicles to 1/2 the number of existing car parking spaces. And to move things along, I am making that motion and putting it on the table right now. Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
It's been properly moved and second on the question. No question. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, this is the first time I've heard of this concept, so forgive my unawareness of this coming forward. So the area in general that you're talking about is an area that the city owns, city has rights to. We can provide the same bathroom facilities, I assume, as we have at Roberts Lake. And then that area would return to its original state. Is that your vision, kind of, sort of? In the simplest of terms.
Through the mayor, is that question for me?
Yes. Okay.
My understanding is yes, that is exactly the case. It is city-owned property. As I said, to maintain public health and safety, yes, we would be sure there are bathroom facilities there, and this is for no longer than 120 days.
So one more maybe question to the city manager, and I appreciate the idea, Mr. Sir. Is that correct, Mr. City Manager? And you can do that, then that area of Roberts Lake would return back to its original state. Is that how you gather this, and is that doable?
That's how I understand the motion, and it's absolutely doable. What's on the agenda tomorrow night for the council is to cease the suspension of enforcement of the sleeping in vehicles ordinance. And what the council could do tomorrow night, technically, is move that location. Actually, tonight the council could make the motion to suspend the sleeping in vehicles ordinance at the location Councilmember Campbell discussed. And for those who may not know exactly where that is, it's probably more commonly known as the parking lot immediately west of the church that Reverend Gaskins used to.
Okay.
It's a fairly visible location. It has 52 parking spaces. It's directly across the street from the MPC Public Safety Training Center and a block away from Palms Police Station. So the city owns it. The city could certainly move porta potties and hand washing stations there. I think we'd do garbage a little bit differently. We'd probably get a dumpster. That would be a little bit more efficient and a little safer for our employees. But we can certainly do that. We can do that as early as Monday.
And then just one more question for Mr. Campbell. And I just want to clarify that. Because it seems like a doable situation, maybe a win-win thing. So what you're suggesting is move to that site, return the playground and that area for a tourist area as it originally was. And then the area that you mentioned be for 120 days on a temporary solution. Is that what you're saying?
You did. I had some computer interference for just a second there, but I believe I understood what you said. And yes, that is what I'm saying, that we will eliminate Roberts Lake as the temporary allowable space for sleeping in vehicles and move it out towards the former Fort Ord. And that is for a term, if this motion is passed, for a term no longer than 120 days.
And then lastly, maybe this is for this, and then you would be open to the idea what the city manager suggested as it relates to tomorrow night, I would assume, to make it all work and smooth.
Personally, yes, I believe if the staff can manage it, this motion precludes nothing. It allows them as much flexibility as possible, but can hopefully quickly transition the people from Roberts Lake to a new location. And as you say, hopefully it will become a win-win.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Councilmember Wizard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just wanted to clarify with City Manager Malin. It's my understanding, I don't recall if we discussed it or if it was someone, you or one of the staff members or somebody reporting about a conversation, but it's my understanding that there was an offer to help people with non-operable vehicles relocate to this new proposed area. Is that still on the table, or are we still gonna help them do the thing we're asking them to do?
Sure, I offered that a couple of weeks ago for the RVs that I was told that there were 2 RVs that could not move, and I offered that the city would tow them to a location until the owners could repair so that the owners could have another couple of weeks to repair the vehicles. So I would see no reason to leave vehicles at Roberts Lake as we're trying to clean up Roberts Lake.
Okay, well, the point of my question is that if we're saying, hey, Roberts Lake is not the best spot, but we have a different spot that we think might work for you. But if you can't get there, we'll just keep citing you and maybe tow your car. So if we're gonna give them a new set of rules, then we should at least let them start from the starting line.
Well, and just to extend that conversation just a little bit, the parking lot that Councilmember Campbell has identified is roughly the same size as the Roberts Lake lot in terms of the total vehicle capacity. So I would, I'm not here to make friendly amendments to the motion, but I would understand, and staff would understand, that the vehicles that are at Roberts Lake could go to that location, but other vehicles could not.
Yeah, and through the mayor, I want to limit the dialogue, but it's my understanding that Councilmember Campbell's motion, which I seconded for the purposes of the debate, was to provide somewhere for the vehicles that we're saying we no longer want to have at Roberts Lake, to allow them to go somewhere else without scattering them or pushing them just out wherever they may go, but as sort of an alternative, not an A but a B. And then the last question I had is something about Mayor Pro Tem's questions, and I was curious to know if you mentioned a dumpster. You mentioned I think the Mayor Pro Tem actually answered, spoke of porta potties, or and maybe there's that's the silent part that we didn't say was also hand washing stations and other things like that. Are we? Is it your assessment that over the last several weeks that the complement of hygiene options is sufficient, or do we need to add another porta potty or add another hand washing station? I understand that the traditional trash cans at a park were insufficient, which is why you mentioned the dumpster, but specifically the hygiene products.
Well, I have asked that we would have 2 ADA accessible porta potties, and and 2 hand washing stations. And have them serviced daily. So I would expect that those, particularly for an RV community, would be sufficient.
Sure,
An RV community of less than 30 should be sufficient.
and we at Roberts Lake currently we have 1 or 2 of each.
We have 2, but they're not. We have 2.
Okay, so there wouldn't necessarily be much of an increased cost.
Well, the difference is here that the city would pay the cost. The cost would probably be about $125 a day, somewhere between $100 and $125 a day for the full complement of garbage collection and daily servicing of those porta potties. I should add, the CARES Act allows for unbudgeted expenses for homeless care. So
Right, with reimbursement through the emergency proclamation from the governor and the president, it's not as though money will be coming out of people's mouths that we would otherwise do a food bank. Like this will get reimbursed through the emergency proclamations.
that would be the intent.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
Just to make sure, this is to the city manager. So to me, it sounds like a very possible, really good idea, Mr. Campbell. Thank you. I just wanted to, we would move all the vehicles, given the new site, and then we would ensure or do our best to ensure that Roberts Lake area return to a supervised area for what, as far as activities for children, families, tourists, etc. Is that we would double our efforts to ensure that doesn't return with other new vehicles.
Right. The council allowed people to stay there. And if the council chooses another location, the people can stay at the other location, but Roberts Lake becomes a park again.
And we would do our best with our police department to ensure that we just don't get another group come in. That's a true statement, right?
Correct.
That's all I wanted to know. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Campbell, and then Councilmember Kaspersky.
Thank you. And I believe it's the 4-hour parking ordinance that is being considered or requires a second reading would address the idea of people parking for too long at Roberts Lake. And please, city manager, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're not wrong.
Councilmember Kaspersky.
To the city manager, are we currently turning people away at the Roberts Lake parking lot?
And I wouldn't say that we're turning people away, but the space is, maximized. People are squeezing in, and I'll just note, Councilmember Campbell's motion was to use to limit the capacity at this other location to essentially half of the car parking. So there's 52 spaces out there. I counted twice. So that would allow about 26 RVs to be there. So that's another important component of Councilmember Campbell's motion, as I understand it, which is this is not expanding beyond 26, and people won't be able to cram themselves in there because at some point, you need some distance between these vehicles.
I agree with that. I think that will require some kind of daily policing to enforce. How are we equipped to provide that?
Yes. If the council directs us to undertake this, we will police it.
Okay. You mentioned that the Presidio police is nearby. Is this jurisdiction of theirs as well?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other Councilmember Wizard?
Thank you. I hadn't intended to say anything, but I just wanted to follow up on Councilmember Kaspersky's comments or questions rather. I appreciate that we need to create some rules, and I'm curious to know, you don't have the benefit but of 30 seconds since hearing her comments, Mr. City Manager, but I'm curious to know what kind of enforcement you think is necessary. I agree that we need to ensure that people have space, because an incredibly high density, if we put 500 people in that parking lot, there will be tension and there will be issues because we allowed a situation to become untenable. But I'm generally cautious about the idea of over policing that community, and they're already vulnerable, and we've asked them to relocate, and there's going to be some growing pains and some adjustment, and then saying, oh no, your car is too close to this person. And what do you envision is the amount of attention that we'll be giving to them?
I expect that we will be involved in the initial relocation and making sure that that everyone who's at Roberts Lake has a fair opportunity to move to the new location. After that, I would expect that we will patrol. One of the reasons why this parking lot is better than other parking lots on the former Fort Ord is that it is highly visible. We have not had significant criminal activity at Roberts Lake. We just have not. The real challenges we've had there are sort of overcrowding and some sanitation challenges. I think we've learned a little bit about how to handle the sanitation a little bit better with garbage collection and dumpsters. But I would expect the police department to certainly visit on a daily basis, but maybe not necessarily more than that. Obviously, we'll respond to calls. If there are calls for service, for public safety services, the police department or the fire department will respond.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I had a couple questions. What about the other vehicles throughout the city of Seaside, and individuals sleeping in their vehicles? Are they eligible to go over there? As we envision this, I guess, Councilmember Campbell?
Thank you for asking. The idea was to start with a limit comparable to what is the current problem at Roberts Lake. I am open to the idea of expanding as necessary, but right now I believe just tonight in the special meeting is to deal with the immediate problem of Roberts Lake. And I absolutely would like to entertain in the future how to maximize this effort, whether it be, locally or more regionally in any form in the future. But for now, the reason why the size was chosen is that is comparable to Roberts Lake.
Oh, okay, thank you. That makes sense. I just, it's other people living in their vehicles, so I don't want us to forget about those individuals either, and I know you have it. Okay, so I think we'll take it out to public comment, but I do want to remind the council that this is not on the agenda for action, but I think staff has enough clear direction to get done what you want done. Does that make sense, Councilman Campbell?
Yes, if as long as it's understood as direction to staff.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And
you guys
we have the
clear.
opportunity to, if needed, codify it on Thursday. But I defer to the city attorney to come up with a process to make this an actual obligation and codification. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's straightforward. I think the city manager understands you you want to switch the location in the ordinance from Roberts Lake to this 2699 Colonel Durham. All right, we'll go to public and then we'll come back, but we'll make sure that, what you guys are trying to get done gets done because it's clear. All right, so we will open up public comment, let them weigh in, and then we'll bring it back and we'll see any other comments you guys may have. Madam City Clerk?
Yes, sir.
All right, we can start public comment.
Okay, and just for the record, anybody who had emailed their public comments in, those comments have been provided to the City Council. Anything that was received prior to 6 p.m., every one of the council members has it. So we have 11 if you would like to speak on public comment, please raise your hand and you'll be called on in the order in which you would raise it. So Terry Owens, you are now allowed to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hello, I'm Terry Owens. I'm the general manager at Embassy Suites right next door to Roberts Lake. And I just want to say that I fully support this initiative. I do hear from my guests frequently about comments about the homeless and the motorhomes in the area. I've had some online comments and TripAdvisor and other online areas that express kind of disappointment in how, I'll even quote one of them, the Seaside surrounding area has really gone downhill. We expect our guests to pay, a lot of money to stay in our hotel. And it's very disappointing for them when they can't just enjoy the beach views, but they have to experience some of the parts of our city that are not the best. And so I would fully support this. I think it would be great for my hotel, and I really hope that you consider it and take action on it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Bella Maddox, you are now allowed. Thank you for being patient and waiting the first go around. You can now unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes. Bella, are you there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear
Just
me?
barely.
Can you hear me? Can you the address is 99 West?
Okay, actually we can, I'm sorry, Bella, we can't actually hear you. You're cutting in and out.
Well, Madam City Clerk, we'll come back towards
Yeah,
the
what-
end.
Okay, we'll come back
Okay.
to you in just a minute. If you can
Okay,
try
thank you, thank you.
again.
Okay, thank
Okay, oops, sorry. Okay, Pastor Lusk, you are now able to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Did I do that correctly?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I'm going to talk less than 2 minutes if I can. Good evening, everybody, city council, mayor, and all of those. This is a great idea. I know that the city has been moving in the leading fashion of supplying opportunities for those that live in their vehicles. I'll speak in two forms: Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, which is a homeless to hopeful safe parking ministry that began before the partnership of Orphan Productions, which came in, and we currently have 5 vehicles that we currently have parked here with 2 RV spots. One of the specifics for the RV spot is that it is movable. There's a time frame that it would come in at a certain hour and go out. I'm sure that you all are aware of it. My concern is that with the idea of, and number 1, I'm for the homeless. Number 2, I'm for the homeless. Number 3, I'm for the homeless. My concern is with the idea of moving them when it's time for them to move again. Number 1, Pastor Gaskin's lot is not big enough for the large size of RVs that are over there. I drove over there today, got out and walked. You have an RV with a motorcycle and a car. You have an RV with a truck and a car, and a few of the cars didn't run. I'm just asking that we would take Councilman Campbell, great thought, but I'm asking that we as the city, as the council, since I am involved in safe parking and homeless parking, that we take a serious look before we just make these decisions, because If they're not inclined to try to get their mobility back mobile again so they can hopefully not be in need of being able to park somewhere, then we're setting ourselves up for a bigger issue. We need to find a way to help them help themselves, so the issue that we are facing with the homeless and sleeping in cars can one day come to an end. Thank you very much. I'm going to Bible study now.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Lori Michaels, you are now allowed to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hello. I sent you all a letter. I hope you all received it. I'm very concerned about this new idea because so far as I'm aware, I haven't heard a single word about any representative from that small community being brought along to comment on their needs and whether or not the new location that you're suggesting meets them. How far separated is this new location from other services that they may need? I speak as one who has been homeless a total of 10 years in her life. And honestly, when cities and police think they know what's best for me, they're always and invariably wrong. They put me in dangerous situations. They put me in situations where I can't get what I need to get through my day, where I can't find food, where I can't get water, where I can't find a shower. I understand the environment that I place myself in. So unless you've talked to one of the homeless members of this community and said, will this satisfy your needs? This should not be considered. One of the things I brought up in my letter was that there is a moratorium on evictions that should apply to the city. And I cannot think of any rhetorical justification for it not applying to the city. I think if you've got a place that they would be happy in, that would work, then great. But you need to have homeless people weighing in on whether it meets their needs. And I yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you for your comments. Carissa Mann, you can now unmute yourself and speak for up to 2 minutes. Carissa, are you there?
Yes, sorry, that took me a moment. I'm using my phone for the first time with this. Okay, so let me get back to my Google Doc. I'm going to read it despite the fact that the motion was made to move them. So tonight, essentially, you're deciding whether or not to move a community of people who have been able to stay safe at Roberts Lake. They were told they could stay there until shelter in place is lifted, but then that has changed. There's a lot of confusion among the community right now. Our unhoused community members in the county are constantly being forced to move because there truly is no legal place for them to stay. We can try to blame them for not reaching out to the resources we have available, but it's far too simple to say that. I tried reaching out to the county and I got a hold of the Office of Emergency Services, who explained to me the situation with the hotel rooms that are available for the medically frail. We have 150 spaces. There's a wait list. We're not doing good enough. A lot of the homeless community are medically frail and at risk of getting this disease. So first of all, that needs to be expanded. Also, I'm just going to skip over the rest of this because I want to address what was said. So my concern about the new location is that 52 divided by 2 is 26 spots. And as someone else said, RVs, trucks, cars, a lot of them have more than one vehicle. These are vehicles that can't be moved without towing. Is 26 spots enough? How are you going to choose who gets to go and who doesn't? Where are you going to tell the other people to go? They can't afford to stay in a campground that's already booked and costs money. And my other concern is 120 days. I think that if you are going to move ahead with putting them in that Fort Ord location, that you need to put in the motion that it's a possibility of going longer depending on the situation with COVID, because that's ending in November. That's winter, flu season. It's not going to be a good situation for our community in general. And I do believe that it will be worse. There will be more homeless people. We're going to need a bigger space that is legal for them to stay for a longer period of time. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, Bella Maddox, let's see if you, I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself and let's see if we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Now, I was wondering, what was the address of that place again? 2699 West?
Colonel Durham Avenue, or Colonel Durham Road.
Durham. And that's on Fort Ord?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And I just want to tell you guys how thankful I am that you guys are trying to help us instead of just pushing us back out on the street that we got kicked out of before. And I appreciate everything you guys are doing for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Gabriela Chavez, you can now unmute yourself and speak for up to 2 minutes.
Hi there. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and staff. My name is Gabriela Chavez, and I live walking distance from Roberts Lake. As you know, you identified this site as a suitable place for a vulnerable group of people to shelter in place during the COVID-19 pandemic. As I hope we all know, the pandemic has not ended, but rather intensified in that time. The CDC guidelines regarding persons experiencing homelessness were updated in June 2020, and they have not been changed since. The CDC clearly states, connecting people to stable housing should continue to be a priority. However, if individual housing options are not available, allow people who are living in encampments to remain where they are. It's very clearly stated, and I can send you all the link. This is the recommendation from the top virologists and public health officials. By failing to address the arbitrary July 13th deadline at last week's meeting, this council allowed the city manager to recklessly endanger 40 lives, including the lives of children. Law enforcement officials with guns and tow trucks arrived at the camp on July 13th and 14th and instructed residents to leave or face towing. Even after the governor gave a new order on the 13th, rolling back reopening and reminding officials of the continued state of emergency. The Roberts Lake community cannot be ethically and morally asked to move at this time. They cannot be asked to move until a safe and long-term solution has been proposed. One night a week is not an ethical or moral solution either. If you have ever talked to any of the families or individuals living at the lake, you would know that they have to choose between food and gas on a regular basis. I am proud of Seaside for taking the step to establish this community and being a leader on the peninsula in homeless issues. And I wish I would no longer hear the question, why does it have to be Seaside's problem? As the saying goes, some have greatness thrust upon them, and I hope that Seaside can continue to rise to that greatness in this time of crisis rather than complain about it. Thank you.
Tell them you're sharing with Miriam Smith.
Okay. I also have Miriam Smith here. I don't know if she can have.
No, I'm gonna put the hands up again.
Okay. Yeah, if my hand is up again, it would be for Miriam.
Eric Johnson, you are now able to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Terrific. Hey, thank you. Eric Johnson. I sit on the Community Homeless Solutions Board for the last 10 years, and we're the largest shelter and housing provider in the community. We've also been involved through Love Our Central Coast in serving food bags out to this community for probably since the end of April, a couple times a week. So we've gotten to know people very well. And I just like to say on behalf of the homeless there, number one, they've taken extremely good care of the places where they're staying. They've kept trash clean. They've kept people in line. They've dealt very well at distributing food and helping each other. So they've been exemplary from compared to a lot of encampments and so on that we visit, which I really appreciate. I did want to say I'm concerned as well with some of the expressed concerns about the 120-day limit. What do we do after that? And really, we need a permanent solution that probably involves both RVs and maybe even some transitional housing, a real village that can not only support people and get them on their feet, but we've got, and by the way, most of the community we've talked to there are really anxious to work. They all can't work the same amount, but they've got skill sets. They've got some really terrific background that if put to work would help earn money and help to get them on their feet into more permanent housing solutions. So I would love to see a longer term picture that frankly involves the whole peninsula, involved in finding a land in a community and even a village, if you will, where we really restore lives and that we can help people get employed and back on their feet. I'm concerned about the 120 days. It's just like moving cattle around the community a little bit, and I don't mean that in a negative way, because I really appreciate everything that everyone's trying to do. But every time the homeless get moved, it's just so disruptive to their lives and figuring what to do next and where they're going to go to get just basic needs and services each day. So just consider either a longer term or let's look for a permanent solution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Alicia Marie, you are now allowed to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you, everyone. I wanted to ask you, City Council and Mayor, to please comply with CDC guidelines and to support this community that City Manager has already said is not criminal in nature. There's no crime there. There's no reason for police presence, continued police presence. And at the same time as letting them stay safe, sheltered in place, also at the same time consider other solutions, other permanent solutions, other temporary solutions. And this is absolutely necessary. You have to continue reaching out. You have to include those individuals from those communities in the long-term solutions. Otherwise, they're just not going to work. They're top-down solutions. They're not going to happen. They're not going to have staying power because you're not going to consider the needs of those who you're trying to legislate. They're human beings. You know, the constant fines and tickets that effectively criminalize poverty. Well, I mean, what do you expect is going to happen to those who can't pay the fines? So you're sending cops out to disadvantaged communities to play the role of a landlord to folks living in RVs. Where are they supposed to go? How are they supposed to pay these fines? In the middle of a pandemic with the highest unemployment in California in history since we've been gathering the data, this thoughtless mindset of adding citations and fines and constant police presence onto the already obvious social issues that these folks are struggling with, they deserve some peace right now. And we all deserve to be free from the repeated traumatic experiences of losing our homes. So please consider long-term solutions and let Roberts Lake community live in peace. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay. Carrie and Shook, you can now unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you just great.
All right. First, I would like to thank the City Council and Mayor for holding this meeting. Second, I would like to note support for the move for sanitary services and wish to see it include sanitary products and hand washing stations. Overall, my desire would be to not see people moved. As a previous speaker said, homeless folks understand the setting they've put themselves in. That gives them a level of comfort and security that is invaluable to members of that community, our community. I don't think tourists finding it to be an eyesore should be a factor of consideration, especially right now with the global pandemic. Tourists are not vital. Safety for our neighbors is. The pandemic won't be gone in 120 days. Neither will systemic poverty. We need long-term solutions and to decriminalize the homeless, not chase them from parks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Eliza, you are now able to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hi there, thank you. My name is Eliza. I've been a longtime member of this community. I grew up here. I just want to discuss the fact that moving this community at Roberts Lake at this time in the middle of a pandemic, as everyone else has already noted, is not ethical and not moral, which are both two grounds to I guess, refute top-down orders, as to my understanding, based on my discussion with both the Seaside Police Chief Pridgeon yesterday and the city manager, Mr. Mallon, both mentioned. I also don't think we should be giving preference over to tourists who are coming to visit Seaside at this time. Again, during a pandemic, they probably shouldn't even be traveling. I'm not sure why we're giving preference to tourists over our own community members at this time. again, to reinforce that the CDC guidelines do allow these people to stay in that encampment at this time. And lastly, just to urge you guys to brainstorm long-term solutions in conversation with the community at Roberts Lake. Their voices really need to be heard and appreciated at this time. I really, really hope you guys are listening to everyone here on this meeting tonight, everyone bringing these points to your attention. Thank you for your time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Gabriella, you kind of, your connection is kind of lost out, so we missed. Sorry about that. I lost my own connection. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Reiko, you are allowed to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hi, thanks for taking my comment. And definitely I want to extend a thank you to everyone on City Council and the mayor for calling this special meeting. Appreciate your concern around the specific issue of Roberts Lake and in general supporting those of our Seaside community members who are unhoused. I want to be brief and just echo the call for dialogue and value of the input of those who do live at Roberts Lake in this discussion of solutions and making sure that the solutions we come up with really do address their needs. And also as a physician, I do also want to echo the really excellent points made by others about CDC recommendations in terms of keeping members of the unhoused communities safe during COVID. And also totally agree that this pandemic is not likely to end and within the next few months. And so just keeping that in mind, factoring into Seaside's pioneering efforts that are very admirable to support our fellow community members who are unhoused. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Next individual, I apologize. I'm not sure what your name is. I think it's Rich Simak. It's all smushed together. You can unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hi, Rich Cadigan, Vice Chair, Recreation and Parks Commission. I personally appreciate Councilmember Campbell's motion regarding the movement of the homeless encampment to a more desirable location, and imagine other members of the Recreation and Parks Commission will be pleased as well. The City Council created the Recreation and Parks Commission to give advice, make recommendations and decisions, seek input from members of the community, and ensure the health and safety of all those who use our facilities. Our goal is to advance and preserve parks and recreation services and to ensure safe parks and recreation facilities are available for all residents and visitors to the City of Seaside. Please understand that we recognize finding resolutions to assist the homeless is an arduous task. As a commission, we take the safety and health of those who utilize our parks very seriously. Great steps have been taken to ensure those who make use of our parks do so without feeling their safety or health are in danger. Roberts Lake Eco Park is the newest park in the City of Seaside. At a cost of over $150,000 and with the assistance of CalAm, the park was designed to facilitate a learning environment for both school-aged kids and families alike. The park is unusable due to the city allowing homeless to occupy this area. Cities, citizens, and visitors do not use this park because of health and safety concerns. The Commission has heard from a number of concerned citizens regarding the current issues of our parks. People feel unsafe, intimidated, have been propositioned for drugs, and have asked for money. Visitors at nearby hotels often leave negative reviews regarding the homeless because of their fear of using the park, fear of walking to the nearby beach, being aggressively approached in parking lots, and this is just to name a few. This creates another negative issue for the city, and that is the potential loss of TOT. There are many potential health and safety risks of allowing people to camp at Roberts Lake Eco Park. These risks are not limited to litter, human waste, open fire, drug alcohol use, sharps, environmental damage, etc. It is reasonable to suggest that substantial level of refurbishment will be necessary to restore damage to this area. if this is allowed to continue. I am pleased that Roberts Lake Eco Park will soon be given back to the residents and visitors. The Recreation and Parks Commission is opposed to any camping or people sleeping in vehicles at all city parks.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Cadigan. Okay, Marilyn Crookshank, you can now unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes. Okay, Marilyn Crookshank, can you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, okay, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. Thanks for for putting on this meeting, and thank you for your efforts to help the Roberts Park community. I just want to ask, really, how many people are using the park as it's, quote unquote, intended right now during COVID? I mean, are people really bringing their kids to play on a playground that could be contaminated at the moment? So that's just my first question. And then I appreciate your effort to move to try to accommodate the Roberts Park community at Fort Ord, but I worry that that location is far from other services. And I also don't like that it's close to the police station, because I really think that that will be a detriment to their well-being and their lives, because as we know, I believe police patrolling will be a negative impact. And I would ask that if that does happen, if you do move them to Fort Ord, that we make a concerted effort to appoint a community member as a go-between, and not allow the police to indiscriminately just walk through all the time. Also, I just want to emphasize the previous points made about that we shouldn't be prioritizing tourists. We need to take care of our community members, especially during this time, and also in the long term. Remember that in California, houselessness is a huge problem, and it's been a problem for a long time, and it's only going to get worse as this goes on. So please start making long-term solutions now before that happens. And thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Chelsea Lee, you are now able to speak for up to 2 minutes. Chelsea, are you there? Okay, we'll come back to Chelsea. Amanda Dawson, you can now unmute yourself and speak for up to 2 minutes.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and council members. My name's Mandy Dodson. I am a member of Roberts Lake Homeless Encampment. I am their newest member. I've been here since June 19th. I am a disabled 57-year-old woman. This is my very first time being homeless. One thing I need to say about being down here is we are family, we are community. We are family. Everybody helps everybody down here. It's not like just a bunch of drug addicts have been parking in these spots that these people at the Embassy Suites are complaining about. Like people have been saying, we should be thought of first before these tourists. Also, I agree with the fact that through COVID, nobody's going to use this park anyway. They can't. And here's my most important question now that I've been listening to everybody. Governor Newsom put this on the 13th, as of noon, California time, that it is stay-in-place order again. How can any of you, and this is a question, I'm not being derogatory, how are any of you higher above Governor Newsom to have a meeting to decide whether you're going to break the law for the stay-in-place order that Governor Newsom has ordered? Fuck yeah. Where, I mean, I don't understand that. Again, I want to put on here, there's been rumors that needles have been found down here. I can guarantee you there are, maybe one or two somebody has seen, I'll be honest, but that is not what this home is like. We are a family down here that love each other, help each other. And most importantly, We are humans. We deserve to have a place to live. And I wish I could get a hold of Governor Newsom immediately, because I would be letting him know, please, we need you to do something with the council members and the mayor and everybody at the city of Seaside, because of the fact that they are deciding to move us after you've placed a stay in order.
Ms. Dodson, your 2 minutes are up. Thank you so much for your
Thank you very
comments.
much. Thank you. Was that okay? It was great. Was that okay?
Chelsea Lee, we're going to try you again and see if you're back. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can speak for 2 minutes. Okay, I guess not. Miss Lisa Ansani, you can unmute yourself. Oh, wait. Oh, yes. Okay, Chelsea, go for it.
Hi, I'm sorry. I think it wasn't working with my phone. I'm calling just to reiterate what a lot of people have spoken up about. Really, really thoughtful, important voices. I especially want to steer the council towards the folks that are actually living in this community and whose needs need to be prioritized. Again, I think what the last caller just said about a moratorium on evictions needs to apply to all people, regardless of the shape or condition of your home. When there is nowhere legal to live, you have made poverty illegal. So it is critical that we find long-term solutions, and the people who actually live there need to be the ones that are directing those choices. Again, I also don't understand why the police are involved in any way. The police are not equipped to move people, to help people get the social services that they need. And instead, what happens are citations and more fees and confiscation of belongings that makes their predicament even more untenable. So I think it's critical. Yes, I like the idea of Fort Ord, but again, its access to resources may be compromising to the people who actually live in these communities. Who are doing their absolute best to survive this pandemic like everybody else. I also want to address the issue of the power of the hospitality industry in this whole peninsula. Just because tourists are uncomfortable doesn't mean that the humanity of those that are living across the street for them should be compromised. We need to prioritize a safe place over aesthetics and comfort of the privileged. We need permanent solutions. I loved what I was hearing earlier about a village. That's how communities are built, in small groups that have permanent roots. So we need long-term solutions with the voices of the people infected at the center. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Ms. Sani, you can now unmute yourself and speak for up to 2 minutes.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the council and everybody on the call tonight. These are difficult issues. Roberts Lake, I value the council listening to the people that were concerned that parking couldn't be used and things in the area couldn't be used. I also want to thank the creative ideas of another place to go in the meantime. I'm concerned with the 120 days. And I'm really concerned that we're on a slippery slope. My understanding is that this community has been told for 60, 90 days, 120 days, whatever it is, that this was temporary and that they needed to find a place to move. I really encourage services and housing services are really worked on. You know, we're talking about mobile homes at this point, and very possibly we need to be on the outer rings of areas. And I realize that that means services might be a little harder to get to. I come back to my question that I've asked most council members, and I know I've asked in forums like this before. Where are the county solutions? How are we working with the county to develop this and to come up with a bigger, you know, a bigger pot to work with, as well as social services, as well as a greater effort? I think this is way beyond Seaside. My understanding is that one license plate of the 27 at Roberts Lake is actually registered to a Seaside address. So again, what is the county doing and what are we doing as a city with that? Also, has the Homeless Commission had a meeting? Thank you all. These are difficult topics and difficult things, but I appreciate and I value, looking at options. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, Mr. Anton Hunter, you can unmute yourself and speak for up to 2 minutes.
Hello, yes, my name is Anton Hunter. I'm the leader here at Roberts Lake Homeless Encampment. First and foremost, I would like to thank everybody that has come together and actually advocated for us. Thank you on behalf of everybody here at Roberts Lake. I would like to thank you. First off, I'd like to talk about the sanitation situation. To be quite honest with you, I mean, for a lot of people judging us and saying that we're unsanitary, let me inform the general public on one thing. We have 0 COVID positive infection here. We haven't had any single person to be COVID positive. Also, I'd like to ask the city council that if they would like to come down here and meet everybody that's at Roberts Lake. I mean, to be quite frank, it's only a 2-minute drive, not even. It's literally down the block. I find it very hard to believe that if anybody's going to make a decision, based on the general public and the people that are here, you think that you would actually know your community. I bet you guys can't name one member of my community here at Roberts Lake. To be quite frank, I like to also talk about the whole, general appeal of our city. I understand that the general appeal of our city is very important, but to be quite frank, our lives should come first. If you move us, especially now in this time, you put almost all of my members' lives in jeopardy. You will put their lives in danger. So I advise strongly against moving my people now. And, let's come to a compromise and say that you would actually move them in a efficient or actually a good time when the infection actually makes a decline. I would also advise everybody make a serious contribution to, here at Roberts Lake. If you think that, you have the solution, then actually be a part. I mean, if you have a problem with us, then be a part of the solution. Thank you very much. It's kind of hard.
Thank you for your comments.
All in my face, man.
Okay. Please make sure you mute yourself when you're done speaking. Kate Spencer, you are now allowed to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you for having this discussion. I am a tourism business owner myself, and I prioritize the safety and well-being of the homeless community. So that is my preface. I encourage the council to look at the CDC guidelines, to remember that homeless encampments are supposed to stay where they are during the shelter in place. If it is your decision that you really want to try to get the entire group to move, I would encourage you to talk to all of them and allow them the dignity of self-governance to decide whether they agree with the move. Looking at the location in Fort Ord, I'm concerned that it's not close to a food store, pharmacy, other services, and that it is close to a police station. So I think that could be a pretty uncomfortable place, but it could be an option, obviously. And I want to encourage you to think about including in any motion that you would create the option to extend after 120 days, because the shelter in place is not going away, the COVID is not going away, and as we get to more and more evictions, there's going to be more homeless people. So for that, we've got to think about how many people can stay in the space, and I like the idea that there are empty spots that could be used for other vehicles. So you might want to think about whether an individual RV is required to occupy only one spot, or whether spots between RVs could be used for people's other vehicles. We need to really look at a long-term housing solution, consider maybe a tiny house or RV village on former Fort Ord. I agree with the earlier speaker who said that we need to be talking with the county very much about long-term solutions. And I also want to emphasize that all municipalities need to be looking at this. I live in Pacific Grove. Pacific Grove needs to be working on where we want to put, where we can support unhoused people, and all of it needs to be a broad community discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, Mr. Ayman Adib, you are now allowed to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes. Mr. Adib, are you there? I see you are, we're unmuted. I see you trying. We still can't hear you. Okay, we'll come back to you in just a second. Gabriela Chavez or maybe Miriam Smith, you are now allowed to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Okay, so I was wondering if you guys had me out of order. Thank you. You know, because of her name coming up twice. But I want to address the homeless issue. As I said before, I'm homeless, and there's an ordinance that's coming in that you all are working on, and I think that we are criminalizing the poor people, including myself, way too much in the city of Seaside, making it very uncomfortable for us to be here. It's not always our fault for being pushed out of housing. And I want to be very clear that if the ordinance come in, I'm asking people to come up against this ordinance. And if the ordinance does come in saying you can sit in your car for 4 hours, I slept in my car and just in and out of sleeping in my car back and forth from a hotel. So I want to be very clear that I'm not moving off of the street that I choose to sleep on in the city of Seaside. And many of you all know that. And I just think you're being very unfair. To address Tracy Owens at Embassy Suites, I think she's a very discriminatory person. She has discriminated against Black people, including myself, at that place. And I don't recommend that we consider anything she has to say. And I'm ashamed of Jay Pacheco, who was supporting the homeless, I thought. And now he's like wanting to over police the homeless. And that is cruel to use the police for homeless people and try to criminalize the homeless people. And I also want to say that, because he's concerned about what if they continue other people to stop and other people from coming there if you move them away. This time, right now, we cannot move the homeless people away. We cannot move away from Roberts Lake and go somewhere else. Okay, that's not even a convenient, and it's totally a barrier to services being up in that area. The only service we would probably have is the police service. That's crazy. And then not only that, it's during a pandemic. How dare people even consider moving the homeless during a pandemic? We shouldn't be allowed to shelter in place. And I want to mention Martin and Boise. Consider that, Martin and Boise, because you know you're putting us at risk as homeless people.
Ms. Smith, your time is up. Thank you so much.
People need to look that up. Thank you.
Dr. Adib, would you like to
Yes,
try
I'm
to
here.
unmute yourself? Oh, we can hear you now. Great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for taking my comments. I appreciate your efforts toward this homeless issue. We are all here for homeless. But I just want to make sure the address is correct. 2699, this property, as my information, is not owned by the city of Seaside. So I need the city manager to dig in this information, please, and correct it. Thank you. That's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Mr. Alex Miller, you can now unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Yes, hi Leslie, thank you and good evening. I just want to remind the city that the contract with Green Waste does allow for special use of dumpsters. And because that contract is missing an exhibit, that therefore the contract would apply to this situation, and the city should obtain free dumpsters from Green Waste as it's stated and written in the four corners of the contract we have with the city. I've explained my position with the Green Waste contract many times, and it is ambiguous to the terms of what is considered a special event. And this, I do believe, is a special event. So dumpsters and trash cans should be provided by Green Waste pursuant to the contract. I also like to thank and commend use of Fort Ord property for homeless. And I think that is a good solution. And depending on how we're gonna execute this, will be a great benefit to the residents. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Olive Gibbons, you can now unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Olive, and I'm a Seaside community member. I'm extremely disappointed that the city has been actively trying to remove the houseless community from Roberts Lake and to sneak in a city ordinance that would criminalize people for parking in city parking lots for over 4 hours. I demand that the city of Seaside and the Seaside Police Department leave the Roberts Lake community alone. If you must get involved, ask the community members what they need and help them with that. I demand an end to police terror in their community. To the worker from Embassy Suites who spoke, who's not even a Seaside resident, I ask you to consider these unhoused folks' humanity, and I hope you're hearing yourself when you value the beach view over their lives. We should be addressing the issues that people at Roberts Lake have with real solutions. At the very least, this community should be left alone so that they can keep each other safe and keep their area clean. I really don't want to hear empty words like, I understand where you're coming from and wish there was a solution by the police officers who tried to evict them, or the city recognizes that there is a lack of parking available for members of the public that may be experiencing homeless and wants to provide a parking solution, as from the new proposed ordinance, without action to back it up. We will not tolerate the city and police harassing and illegally evicting these people. As several people said, it's against the CDC guidelines right now and it's extremely immoral. We are still in a state of emergency with COVID-19 risk increasing every day. As people, so we should, against the CDC guidelines, especially for unhoused people from areas like Roberts Lake, where they're relatively safe and able to shelter during the pandemic. They're not bothering anyone or trashing the area, and even if they were, they have a right to a safe place to stay. I demand that the City Council vote against the proposed new ordinance tomorrow that would criminalize staying in city parking lots for over 4 hours. This criminalizes people who are forced to sleep in their cars. We need to build working solutions before we even consider forcing anyone to move. And please read about that ordinance at tinyurl.com/seaside parking ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Martha Henry, you can now unmute yourself and speak for up to 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Martha Henry, and I'm a local teacher here in the Seaside community, and I'm also a resident here. And I've been a resident for over 30 years. I am really, really, really disappointed that we are not showing more compassion to the homeless. I think that we forget that in the blink of an eye, any one of us who currently feel like we're so secure in our homes can end up in this position. And then how will we want others to treat us? I don't care about the ocean view. We don't even have many tourists here anyway. But what I do care about are the people who are homeless, who need our help, who need our compassion. And we need to show them that. And then as a woman of faith, we have to show, well, because I don't know, I can't speak for anyone else, the love of Christ. I would never condone anything, any action like this. And I didn't even know about that ordinance, but I'm absolutely against that as well. Our first priority, we are in a pandemic. We need to govern like we're in a pandemic. This is not like an everyday thing. I think that we would want people to be together, because of contact tracing and all of that. Let's help these people. Let's ask them. Let's befriend them. Ask them what they need. I don't like this punishment. I don't know where this comes from. It's just evil. And it's not showing compassion at all. And I'm disappointed. And I'm going to follow things very carefully. And I'm going to voice because I can't remain silent with things like this. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
You're welcome.
Okay, Wes White. Mr. White, you are now allowed to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hello, Wes White, Salinas resident, co-president of Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union. You have partners already. It's the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers. And actually, Anton Hunter, the mayor of the RV park or the RV homeowners association there at Roberts Lake, they have all this information already. They're looking for help. You need to be a partner and actually let these people work through the motions, where they're at. I mean, this is shelter in place. I mean, you say so much. You took a knee, I mean, come on. You're here to save lives, so let's do that. Is you need to leave them where they're at until you find a better long-term solution. I'm kind of disappointed that 120 days is as long as we can see going out without, revealing any kind of intention of what's going to happen after the 120 days. I mean, in fact, I think some people will be very happy to go, where you're suggesting. And I think you should leave that option on the table for people who want to go there. But, forcing people out, if it's agreeable to them, that's the thing. We need to be making agreements with people one-on-one. This is how housing the solution is going to work. You can use these as affordable housing units, maybe. I don't know how you can cheat the system for money, but this is more affordable. I mean, come on, which would you prefer, living in an RV or a tent? I mean, it's already no brainer. We need to keep these people in a sense of society and, be helping people. That's what we're in the business to do. This is public service, not business service. People worry about a separation between church and state. We need a separation between business and state. That's the whole point of positive calls. I mean, what are we calling people for anyway? What do we want to do with them? We'll get rid of them. That's what we can help you do. We can help you get away from me. That's not service. That's why we say defund the police and refund the community.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Mr. White. Ari Murillo Edwards, you can now unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize what a lot of folks have already said, that tourism should really be the least of the city's priority. Tourism is bringing more danger to the community, far more danger than any houseless community or individual person without a home is bringing. And to value the comfort of people who are already endangering others' lives, to value that comfort over actual lives is really concerning. And also displacing folks, it sounds like the solution is to just shove them into a location where where folks can be more comfortable again, which just sounds dangerous to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Mandy Dodson, you spoke once before, but I know some people are sharing phones, so I'm going to allow you to speak in case you have someone else who's going to talk. You can unmute yourself.
It's me again, if that's okay.
We only allow people to speak one time. I'm so sorry. Just to make sure
that's fine. Thank you.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bella Maddox, the same thing. If you are, if you have someone else who wants to make comments on your phone, they can speak now.
Yes, this is Robert Rook.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead and speak.
Yes, my name is Robert Rook. I'm Reverend Robert Rook, and it's wonderful to hear all these comments about this Roberts Lake community here. My concerns here are about the more permanent solutions to the homelessness, because of what I'm seeing. I was really pleased to see that Seaside stepped up to the plate when all the other cities were putting in these codes and all, putting the same as the wall between Mexico and California. All these cities were putting the codes in, just like building walls, blocking everyone with trailers from being in their city limits. But Seaside stepped up to the plate and said, no, you know what? Y'all need a place to go. We're going to open Roberts Lake. I'm absolutely pleased to see that. And I agree with the Fort Ord location. I personally feel that this location is not quite as suitable as others would be. I do feel that the community does deserve to enjoy this a little bit more than what they're able to with us here. Um, for that, I do apologize to the community. However, I would also like to thank the community for allowing me to do that. Thank you very much, and Anton for doing his work. Thank you very much.
Sorry for that. My connection went out for a second again. Okay, Jose, you are allowed to unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. How we doing? I was born and raised in this community, going from preschool in Seaside, Highlands, McKim Middle School, Seaside High School. I just want to say that I support your decision on Roberts Lake, on staying there, because I think, especially during this pandemic, it's like the wrong decision to do right now. And you shouldn't take opinions on people that just got moved in here because they want this Hollywood life. Me, that lived here my whole life and still do at this moment, I support that they should have a better life than anyone else. Not anyone else, but just us right now. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you for your comments. Martha Henry, you can now unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hi, this is actually her granddaughter, Sabria, but I've also lived in Seaside my whole life. And one thing that I just wanted to say is I think it's absurd to consider the comfort of tourists who are coming here over the homeless population who are actual Seaside residents. And my grandmother said this the first time, but it could be anybody at any time. I think that that's a mess of a solution to just say, oh, well, you guys can't be here anymore. And the Fort Ord does not help, because that's just an out of sight, out of mind. If you actually want to fix the problem, and this is really about helping people and creating a safer environment, then there needs to be a lot more solutions. And it can't just be we're moving these people up the hill where we can't see them anymore. And now they're out of our way and they're not blocking our view, because the view really doesn't matter when there's people's lives at stake, especially during a pandemic. I also think that tourists should never come before people who actually live here. And I really think that's just a terrible excuse and a terrible barrier to some people having peace and being able to live where they've been comfortable living. And if somebody already is without, and I think that Antoinette said this earlier, and sorry, I don't remember your last name. I think it was Hunter. But if you're getting to know people, then you won't feel comfortable doing this. If you're going down there and you're meeting people and you're comfortable and you're really treating them as humans, this won't be okay to you, because this is dehumanizing. It's really not okay at all. And that's really all I have to say.
And thank you so much for listening. And those of you who live down there, just let us know how we can support you, because this is not okay. So you just need to know that if you move them, you have residents who are absolutely against this move. I thank you for your time. And we're going to pray about this, all right, for everyone, okay? Thank you.
Thank you both for your comments.
Madam City Clerk, you control the time, right?
Our city attorney is controlling the time.
Okay.
Look at him.
Okay. So the person with the name of Y Shin, I apologize if I mispronounced that. You can unmute yourself and speak now.
Hi, yes, it's Yajishin. And
okay.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm actually very, very disheartened by how inhumane everyone is, or how the council and the officers and just everyone has been responding to this and enforcing an eviction, especially as we said that this shouldn't be happening, especially during COVID. It's disappointing, very disappointing. And I spoke to the city manager. I spoke to well, I tried to speak to the mayor. I spoke to the chief of the police, the deputy chief, and they're speaking of how we're trying really hard, and we wouldn't do anything that's illegal, unethical, and immoral. And honestly, now that the fact that evictions should not be happening, it is all three of those: illegal, immoral, and unethical. And I just want you all to just reflect and ask yourself, do you really believe that enforcing an eviction on the livelihoods of these people and over you would want to enforce these evictions because of the voters wanting to park at a lake, that which we have plenty of lakes, by the way, and tourists, again, tourists should not be coming here. It is a danger. And it's just, is that ethical? Is that really ethical? What are your morals and your ethics if you are evicting people? And I would just want to say Deputy Chief Judy Velas was very blasé about everything, and I understand, difficult, but yeah, she said just tow everything at noon, and that doesn't sound like someone that wants to help. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Riley, you are now able to unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, thank you. My name is Riley Skinner. I'm a CSUMB student. I live in Marina, but I'm still very involved in Seaside community. I'd like to echo what other people have said, and I thank the Seaside City Council for having this conversation, searching for humane and moral solutions to this issue. I want to point out that this was not handled well initially. Initially, you'd ask people to move when we had asked where is this community supposed to go. Officer Enriquez, who handled this very well, even though I believe the police should not have been handling this at all, left to speak with a supervisor and returned with a list of local state parks, none of which were free and none of which were within a 20-minute drive from Roberts Lake. I just want to make sure that if the city is going to displace people, make sure they're taken care of. But ultimately, I want to urge the council to prioritize the safety of our community, which I believe is to let them stay at Roberts Lake, because asking them to move is asking them to be in contact with other people during shelter in place. And it's just really upsetting that the council sent a cop to move people when we're already in a very fraught and fragile situation. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Anton Hunter, I know you've already spoken before, but if you're using your phone to allow someone else to speak, you can go ahead and unmute now.
Yes, I have an individual here, Kevin, that would like to speak. Kevin, come on. While he's making his way to me, if anybody would like to help the individuals here at the camp, I'm the leader. Real quickly, my number is 831-905-0774. Again, 905-0774. Here, Kevin.
Hello, my name is Kevin Kozlowskis. I'm recently calling Roberts Lake my home, and it's very important to me to have a home, because I'm actually on the ground. I'm not in an RV. I help people around here when I can, and they help me. And it gives a sense of community, a sense of family, and it's giving people a moral boost. And it's a morale boost, excuse me. And that is something that's priceless. You can't. I get emotional over this. I worked in Fortune 500s for 18 years. I did well, which society calls well. You know, I paid my taxes. I had a home, a family. Everybody passed away, unfortunately. And so now you see me walking around your town with my dog and my bags on my back. And this group here accepted me in.
It's okay, brother. It's all right.
And allowed me to be part of their family. You know, family's who you make it, and I'm proud. You know, I may have been born in San Jose. I'm a California kid, born and raised, but Monterey and Seaside are now my home. And I just want to thank the community that has supported us. And I hope you can find it in your hearts to do what's right. I mean, don't evict people when they're now getting a leg up. Just let us call this our home and watch what happens when we take pride in our home. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Greg Soderer, you can now unmute yourself and speak for up to 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, cool. Hi, I'm also here at Roberts Lake, and I was born and raised here in Pacific Grove, lived in Monterey, ran a plumbing business here for 20 years, and now I'm back after 10 years in Monterey or in Seaside at Roberts Lake because the testing for me to get my business back is closed down because of this COVID. Now, if Governor Newsom closes the state down, why isn't the city council even sticking their nose in it to remove us from Roberts Lake? That just, to me, seems asinine, just like Amanda Dodson said. And we all are family here, and we do keep this place clean. But I wanna blast United. Hold on, United. What does that say on that? United Site Services and their toilets. You're supposed to be emptying those 2 days a week. I myself, as a plumber, would put my foot in there with seat covers to push it down, and it reeked worse than any job I've ever been on. So the toilets down here need to be serviced twice a week with all the people that are here. That's not a homeless thing. That's a company thing. We all love each other. We all need a place to go. This is not an ends of a means for me. Once the testing sites are over, I'm going to get my plumbing business back. Everybody has a skill set down here. Everybody is human. So we need to remember that. And for anybody to go against the governor and kick us out for their own ego is bullshit. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Okay. Alexis Garcia Arazola, you can now unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hi, Council. Am I unmuted? Yeah, I'm unmuted. Nearly 40% of Americans will experience a year in poverty at some point during their lives, and that number is expected to grow due to the ongoing pandemic. Communities of color face disproportionate economic challenges and barriers to opportunity. Let's revitalize communities that have been left out and left behind. Let's make environmental justice a central priority. Too many communities are currently facing distress and poverty as it continues to cut entire neighborhoods off from jobs, from commerce, and from hope. Let's connect housing support in seaside neighborhoods to economic opportunity. We are stronger together, and I urge that our city go above and beyond to find a solution to this issue. I yield my time.
Thank you for your comments. River Navai, you can now unmute yourself and speak.
Hi, thank you, Council, and everyone who's been on. I just want to share that, again, the eviction of really anybody right now is just really preposterous. And I hope that the council together will decide that there's not damage being done by homeless folks, houseless folks, many of whose homes are their RVs and cars, living in our public spaces. And really what we could be doing instead of evicting them is providing those resources that have been mentioned. I know that a lot of folks have already shared that there needs to be care put into the situation to protect people. We can rally the resources to do that, and I really hope that the council makes that decision. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. G. Smith, you can now unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hi, yes. G. Smith is Gertrude Smith, in case anyone recognizes me. But I want to say again, I want to echo the sentiment of the last speaker in that I really feel like any eviction, regardless of if you have a house right now or not, any eviction of community members in Seaside is absolutely ridiculous, and if I can be quite honest, it's heinous. And I really want to encourage our community, including those of you all who are elected, to make the best decision for the edification of our entire community, including I know this is like a biblical term and it's probably not politically correct, but the least of these, including the least of these, and people who are houseless or people who face any amount of housing insecurity are people that we definitely have to fight to consider, and they're worth it. So again, I just want to say, encourage you all to make the decisions that you're going to be making going forward with compassion and yeah, compassion and common sense. Yeah, again, thank you for letting me talk, and I yield my 15 seconds.
Okay, thank you for your comments. If anyone else wishes to speak under public comment, please raise your hand now. If you are calling in via a phone, you can raise your hand by putting *9. All right. Bobby Maxwell, you are now able to speak for up to 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I would like to say ditto to all the comments that Rich Cadigan, who is the co-chair or the vice chair of the Parks and Rec Commission. We've had that discussion about the lake and the camping at the lake many times. And I am totally against any kind of camping at any of the parks. And the people that are there were there before this pandemic ever was known about. They were there last year. And it's just a mess. And also, I've heard a lot of bad talk about the police, and the police are not picking on anyone. They have gone over there and saved some lives with drug overdoses. They've administered Narcan to save lives. We need to really push our county, our Monterey County people to get on board and pay for all this stuff. I just thank you for your time, and homeless is a bad thing. I mean, people are forced into it, and it's a terrible thing. It's a real thing. We need to help them as all we can, but let's be real about this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Yushin, you had spoken once before, but in case you're allowing someone else to use your phone, I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself.
Hi, yes, I'm speaking under the name of Y Shin. My name is Daniel Allis. And I'd just like to say that I think the move to Fort Ord is a plan with the underlying motives to over-police this community, as well as to appease the voters who have the privilege to go somewhere at the end of the day and who really don't understand what it's like to be within this community and don't understand the people in the community. I'd also like to ask, why does it appear that the Seaside City Council is not aware that Governor Newsom has reinstituted the shelter in place? As well as I'd like to reiterate the previous stated CDC orders to not move or evict any people. Also, I think the question of tourist satisfaction over resident well-being and security is aggressively misprioritized and will ultimately lead to the further decimation of these people's lives. You know, Yeji earlier spoke on assistant. Earlier spoke on. I apologize. Assistant Deputy Chief Judy Lavaz. Velaz. I apologize. I apologize. I yield my time.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Clarissa, you can now unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, so my name is Clarissa Marie. I'm 28 years old. I'm a single mother of 3 with my youngest being 8 months old. And sorry if I get emotional, but I'm also one of the residents down at Roberts Lake. I want to thank your efforts to find temporary solutions. I've listened to all of you speak, and I have not heard one single member of the council mention kids that are down there. I'm sad to hear that none of you have addressed or state concern of the fact that there is a global pandemic and you're trying to relocate us to a place. And I'm afraid that I will not be able to access services. I'm about 5 minutes away from so I want to say that I do work. I contribute to my community. I pay my taxes. I'm just honestly, like, I'm just in a bad time in my life right now with my kids. And I don't think it's fair that you guys are trying to push us out and you guys are picking tourists over kids, children. Nobody has been down there from the city council to help, to ask questions, to even ask if my kids are okay, if we need anything. And I just think that it's very wrong that you guys are trying to push us out. We are a family down there. We all help each other out. When I don't have food to eat, it's none of you guys that are down there helping me or giving my children food. It's everybody that's at Roberts Lake that helps me out. They come and they bring me food. They come and bring my kids diapers, my son milk when I need it, when I don't have the money or when my check doesn't come in. So we are a community. We do keep our community clean. And I don't understand why people are saying that it's dirty down there. Like, it's not dirty. Everybody team cleans. Everybody has days that we clean. We try our hardest. And I just think that it's wrong that you're trying to relocate us right now, especially in this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, the phone number that ends in 7655. You can unmute yourself and speak for up to 2 minutes. If you need to unmute yourself, I believe it's *6.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. My name is Michael Fechter. I'm the program director for Fish Safe Park and the county parking program. Some of the council members may remember us. We've operated programs for 7 years throughout Monterey County. And we're just ready at any time to help folks that are going through a period of homelessness by overseeing a program wherever the city sees fit. I hope that we can reach out to other cities and pool a little bit of money together because we have a waiting list of about 30 people. We're at 100% capacity throughout the county. There are so many people in need. And we're just here, as always, ready to help. So please reach out to us. We can oversee all aspects of the program and help a lot of people get back into housing if that's what they desire, increase their income, and increase their general health and wellness. Again, thank you for the work that the city does, and please reach out to us at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Leslie, who was that?
That was the gentleman who runs the One Star Fish Safe Parking Program. And he's partnered with Pastor Lusk as well.
Yes. We already are overseeing 2 parking lots, Victory Temple and Pastor
That's
in
true.
Seaside.
Yes, sir.
Thank you again.
Okay, David Glover, you can now unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hello, and thank you. And that's actually my first comment is I really appreciate what the city council has done so quickly this evening as far as opening up another place to be, or an alternate place to be. I've been living down at Roberts Lake for about 3 months now, and have been giving it a great deal of thought, the larger problem, not just us, but how do we deal with the larger problem? And having all the space out at Fort Ord is just a godsend for this kind of thing. So I think that's great. What I really ran into in trying to get us organized was I really need input from the city. You know, the way it's going to work is through cooperation, and it's hard to cooperate when we don't have your ear or we're not hearing from you directly. All we've gotten is a whole scattering of different responses from the city. So this is a good tightening up of that, and I think it's great. It's going to take a lot of organization, and one thing that immediately has to be addressed, you're talking about a limited number of spaces and putting RVs and then sticking other cars full of people in between the RVs. In that situation, we're all within 10 feet of each other all the time. We're not socially distancing when we're sleeping, you know, so we need that space of, you know, at least a space in between every RV. So I would considering expanding the whole thing eventually. And kind of on that note, this problem that you're solving here, or creating the solution to a problem, there is what they call a tsunami coming at us of more homeless people. You know, there's been a moratorium on evictions for 3-4 months. They're going to extend it a little while, but at that time, everybody's getting thrown out on the street. And if they don't have a program to absorb this, I mean, people are just going to be in their cars living in stoplights and things. They're just going to be people everywhere. So the problem's really going to grow. So we have some time to get our proverbial stuff together. And I would like a real dialogue with the city council to achieve that, to get a lot closer to that. And hopefully you could hear me, because I never checked back in with you.
Nope, we can hear you, but your minutes are up. So thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there's an individual who's named themselves Seaside City Council Meeting. You can unmute yourself and speak for up to 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Miller. Hi, Mayor. Hi, City Council. I am not for the RV camps and tents and that, but I mean, it's getting ridiculous. They have garbages and all over the place and stuff like that. But I really wanted to let you guys know how I feel on this. There have been an influx and property crimes, personal crimes, drugs-related crimes, and it's overdosed involving officers having to use Norcan, as well as Shell gas stations, is complained numerous times about the subjects from the RV camps and stuff like that around there. Having a large RV camp park right off the exit to our city looks terrible for people on vacation and visitors. Recommended by City Council, move the homeless population to an abandonment lot in Fort Ord. I really think that it should be happening, but it's up to you guys whether you guys want to do it. But I'm all for the police and the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. At this point, there are no more hands raised. Does anyone else wish to speak? Please raise your hand now. Mayor, there are no more hands raised. Oh, sorry, there's one more. Miss Diane Nielsen, you can unmute yourself and speak for 2 minutes.
Hi, this is Diane Nielsen. I'm a City of Seaside resident, and I wanted to echo the comments of my fellow Parks and Rec commissioners that using our parks intended for wide-ranging use and not for long-term living by unhomed people is it unbalances what our community parks were meant for. And I think the solution or not the solution, but the alternative of Fort Ord is a very viable alternative. I think it's a great opportunity for people that currently are at Roberts Lake. And I feel that people who wish them to remain there might, and if that happens, they might take up the task of making sure things run well there. They could form a committee or a tag team to help the community and get to know more of the people there. But first and foremost, I think our parks are meant for people who want to use them, whether they can use them right now or not. And yes, this has been going on well before the pandemic. And those are my comments.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Mr. Mayor, that is the last request to speak.
Okay, public comment is closed. Bringing it back to the council. Who wants to go first? Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you. Since I obviously called for this meeting, it was out of concern, and I will not speak for all of the council members, obviously, but I believe every council member is very concerned about every individual. So I don't want to. I don't want it to come across that we're being unethical, immoral, or whatever. Personally, I've been down to the Roberts Lake. I've ridden my bike through there several times. I've driven my car nearby, down the road, and have been very impressed at the state of the encampment. So I am not casting judgment on the poor state of affairs there. I would like to hear from the city attorney to address the issue of whether this is considered an eviction or a sweep against the governor's orders. I think that's a very valid question. I'm just going to throw out my opinion right now, and that's basically the homelessness situation is very complex, very difficult, and we're not going to come up with any solutions. Global solutions now that are going to be perfect. But what we're dealing with right now, for the most part, is RVs, recreational vehicles, which in my opinion are shelters. We are not kicking, the goal here is not to kick people out of their shelter. The goal here is to allow people to find a safe place to park their shelter. And that's, at least for me, that is the goal. I would not support an ordinance of removing everybody without a reasonable alternative or a reasonable place to go. That is why I called this meeting and wanted to find a reasonable alternative for people who are parked at Roberts Lake. As we know, we're not pitting tourists against homeless. We are, that's not the battle I see, but I see members of our community saying we want to be able to use our parks. And I'm completely sympathetic to the people who are looking for a place to call home and feel secure in a place, but this is a solution, maybe temporary, but a solution for up to 4 months. I am pleased that the Michael Fector from One Starfish spoke up, but unfortunately they're overwhelmed. They have a waiting list. We are woefully under, we're woeful in our situation as far as dealing with a homeless situation. And I want to do everything we can to try and mitigate some of these issues. So I'm comfortable with the motion I made, or if it turns out to be direction clearly understood by staff to look at to move people to another location while freeing up our parks. So that's where I am, and I really appreciate everybody's input in this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Kaspersky.
I wanted to speak to Councilmember Campbell's desire to limit the time to 120 days, and I wanted to ask: are you amenable to, maybe limiting it to until the end of COVID, so that we have a place for people, at least throughout the pandemic, which I'm supposing will take a year and a half maybe until we've got a vaccine, or who knows, it'll be a long time before this pandemic goes away. And I guess my thought is, can we increase the time to create some sense of stability? The community has been mentioning feeling uprooted. So if we are able to use this parking lot on the former Fort Ord, and it does a better job than the park has done, I can envision a longer term stay. I'm wondering if Councilmember Campbell is amenable.
Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you. I personally am amenable, but ultimately what I would like to do is find a more permanent solution. This 4-month deadline, while we put that in there, no longer than 4 months, without like opening the door, that council, if the situation arises, the council can obviously extend that. I am sympathetic to the idea that people who might move there are experience anxiety at that deadline. I'm sorry about that, but we make. I would like to find a more permanent solution that is that hopefully will be on property that we will be able to keep, or county property, or wherever it ends up, underutilized property that will be a more permanent solution. This property is not. It cannot become in perpetuity a solution. So that's why I put a time limit on it. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem. I believe you're muted.
I would be open to the idea to a possible extension as time approaches. But remember, we have a developer coming in there in Campus Town, and we don't know the timelines as it relates to that. But I think the council, as you mentioned, Mr. Campbell, can extend it based on what's happening. A variety of points in it. Hopefully and they're all over my note page here. One, I want to say that I'm really proud of Mr. Campbell and the city of Seaside for what it's done for the homeless. Don't forget, we just donated $33,000 for the homeless shelter. Don't forget that we just approved the homeless shelter facility. Don't forget we donated $40,000 for the Salvation Army food truck that was breaking down to feed the homeless. Don't forget that we've allocated numerous bathrooms throughout the area that's for the homeless. I dare suggest, speaking with favor of the city, is that we are probably be the leader in the most compassionate city in the peninsula in providing service. So as we get commented negatively, I hope people realize all the efforts the city has done to step forward. And I think Mr. Campbell has led the way to a way that can provide an opportunity and do something positive in the long term. On that, and I heard comments regarding the police tonight, and this is the first time I've heard negative ones, because one of the comments that have approached the council in the past, they've always been positive. So hearing something different was disappointing, but in the longer picture, all I've heard is our cops, our police officers treat our homeless in this area the best on the peninsula. So I also want to make recognition of that. I think it's a great idea to do a task force of some sort to include the homeless for a long-term solution. I think that has value. Solution involves all the peninsula cities. I think that has been said by county leaders in the past. And don't forget, the county kicked out the homeless in the county, and the city of Seaside with Harold Lusk or Reverend Lusk and Victory Temple, and now this, and then we have stepped forward to replace all that. And economically, medium income, we are the lowest in the peninsula, and we are doing the most, and we should be proud of that rather than questioning our efforts. I have no doubt in all of our sincerity continue doing the things that we're doing. And I know the tourist was not talked well of tonight, but just keep in mind, hopefully the residents or the homeless that are listening, we get revenue from the TOT tax. If I heard the city manager correctly, it's about $3,000 a month. We are in a different deficit spending mode. We need that TOT tax to provide some of the services of that $3,000 to do what we're doing. Without that TOT tax, we wouldn't be able to do it. And I believe I'm correct that the TOT tax is our second largest revenue source in the city. I'm not saying they are higher priorities than the using area, but we have to be, in order to provide services, we need revenue. Keep in mind that the mayor and myself are on the homeless coalition, and mayor will probably correct me if I'm wrong. I don't see them donating millions of dollars to the city of Seaside for city of Seaside. I don't see them donating $500,000 to $1 million to the city of Seaside on our wish list of services that we spend hours doing with the coalition of people that were making recommendations. The city of Seaside has stepped forward with our own dollars, in large part to provide some of this services. I agree with all the council people that I've heard so far tonight that a long-term solution, I agree with Mr. Campbell or Councilman Campbell, that needs to happen. And that goes back to, this is a peninsula concern. The coalition, the mayors of other cities need to step forward and do something. There's numerous areas with overflow that could be used for the homeless encampments. Monterey Wharf, that's a huge parking lot. And numerous areas in PG and Carmel. There's a whole valley that may have areas. So let's look at a unified effort rather than a single source solution. And I just want to agree. I still hold true to Mr. Campbell's idea. I think it's a good idea, and I think it's very possible and very helpful. to make sense. So I'm for it. I think it's a good idea. And I think a task force to solve this, to include the homeless uh, team or their council, I think that would be a long way to answer some questions, to provide opportunity and get their input. The leadership should not always, be it the mayor and city council, find the solutions. Sometimes when we work with those that have the concerns, they can help present the best solutions, as long as we compromise and we work together to solutions, rather not your way or my way. But there are compromise solutions. Mr. Campbell came up with one tonight. I'm very much in favor of it. Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
All right, anyone else? Councilmember Wizard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I heard a lot of passionate comments from both community members directly affected by our conversation this evening and concerned neighbors who feel moved to share with us. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to hear their comments and questions. And so I wanted to follow up on just a couple of things before I made any comments. The first was whether the city manager is aware of any local service, or maybe even the mayor or the mayor pro tem as our representatives to the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers. Is there somewhere in the county that has a mobile laundry or shower trailer? I know we tried to purchase one with the COVID money that we actually we didn't get the grant for. I'm sorry, not the COVID money, but the HEAP money. I don't know if somebody in the county has access to one of those, and we could borrow it once a week or whatever we need. I mean, more than 0 times a week. Hopefully, we could get it more often, but as a minimum, at least once a week. Do you know of that resource being available?
I do not, but I can check again and see if it is available.
Yeah, I mean, at a minimum, I think, if we're going to be trying to keep people healthy, they need to be able to clean themselves and clean their clothes. And asking people to go to Pachulo Swim Center, which is closed, or the YMCA that might be closed, or some other nonprofit or public facility that is closed, it's going to be hard for them to keep healthy and keep their neighbors and family and loved ones healthy. So that would be something that I would want to see sort of bundled together with any plan, regardless of where we end up asking this community to remain. The other part of that is, I know that the community hospital's mobile clinic goes to Walgreens. It's my recollection that the reason they don't go to Laguna Grande Park is because the city would not agree to them going there, because there was some historical conversation around the image of the park. I could have that wrong, but that's topically that's how I understand it. And so the concession was to partner with Walgreens on the corner of Canyon Del Rey and Fremont. And so I'm wondering if it's possible to ask Community Hospital to make a second trip or for an hour or so when they normally come to Seaside, if they could visit this community as well, just to make sure that people have access to antibiotics and Band-Aids and prescriptions for things that they aren't able to go to the doctor, or they don't have good Wi-Fi and can't do a telehealth visit, or whatever the case may be.
You can do that.
Okay. That's great. I'd love to get some follow-up on those questions. And then the last one, second to last one, actually has to do with land use concerns. And so maybe a question for the city attorney, but I know that Roberts Lake is squarely within the city's coastal zone. And I'm curious to know if we are, I understand some rules are suspended and some rules are, not officially suspended, but nobody's enforcing them because there's a stay on certain enforcement actions. Are we aware of whatever conditions exist that may impact our use of of our local coastal zone and the various requirements from the California Coastal Commission for temporary and longer term use of these coastal areas.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Wizard. So to the extent that the City Council wishes to change the use, the hours, the parking, expanding to overnight parking, even the pending ordinance that has not yet gone through the second read, would require Coastal Commission review and ultimate amendment, possible amendment of the local coastal program. So there will be a process by which the Coastal Commission will review that permanent change.
So the temporary change, which was part of the emergency proclamation from the city manager as our emergency manager to allow people to remain there during the declared emergency, the proclaimed emergency, as a temporary change, that was within our authority as a city. But if we made a permanent change, whatever it may be, that would require an update to our local coastal program and or coastal commission approval.
Right, and the longer this temporary situation goes on, I think the more the Coastal Commission is likely to review our temporary orders down there, since one of the primary missions of the Coastal Commission is to ensure the greatest possible access to the coastal zone areas, and that's not just by a limitation of overnight camping. So to the extent that others are excluded or precluded from the ongoing use of that area, I think the Coastal Commission might actually delve in and review our temporary orders as well. They just haven't as of yet, but the longer we are in that situation and the active use by all is limited, I think there could be a review by the Coastal Commission.
Okay, thank you. And so that's, when I heard that Councilmember Campbell was interested in finding a different spot, that was part of my analysis, on the merits of the matter, because I am aware that just last year we ran up against some angry neighbors in Monterey that were not excited about the possibility that we would have a fireworks show at Laguna Grande Lake. And, six in one hand, half dozen in the other. If we do something in the coastal zone that gets the Coastal Commission's attention, the Coastal Commission is, oddly enough, many people don't know about it. It's one of the most powerful bodies in California in that they have no direct oversight by anybody. They're not elected by the people. They're appointed by the legislature and the governor, and seconded from county supervisor seats and city councils. And so they do what they want to do. And if they tell us that we're in violation of something, we would be forced to push people away from Roberts Lake. We would not have any say in the matter. We would have to sue the state of California, which is a losing proposition. So, I mean, I'm not trying to use that as cover by any means. I'm just trying to bring to people's attention that, while we are a city and have the authority and sovereignty of a city, we are but one small unit of the state of California and can be pushed around by the state if that's what the state chooses to do. And just as a clarifying point, I've heard a lot about the shelter in place, and I just, I can be wrong. It's my understanding that the most recent order on the 13th was not a shelter in place, but in fact was a winding back of business opportunities, and that there is no actual shelter in place order here in the city or generally for the state of California. Do I have that correct?
Yes, I believe that's correct, although there is encouragement to shelter in place.
Certainly.
With respect to those comments that somehow this action by the council to designate a replacement parking area for folks that are living in RVs, I don't believe that even if there were a shelter in place, that would be a violation. This is, for all pragmatic purposes, it's an RV parking area, which is the shelter. It's a mobile shelter of the folks that are living there. That's my understanding of the situation. It might be a different analysis if it were a homeless encampment. meaning that they didn't have mobile shelter that moved with them.
So to borrow a legal term, literally homeless.
Literally homeless. This is designation of another parking area for folks to legally park their shelter at this point.
I appreciate that clarification, and be that as it may, it doesn't change the fact that there is a vulnerable community, and that we are making decisions on other people's behalf without walking a mile in their shoes, as it were. Of course, many people, myself included, have experienced housing insecurity throughout their life, and while I was never literally homeless, I understand what it's like to be unsure where you're going to stay or how long you're going to be able to stay there. And so I am sensitive to the comments that we've heard this evening. And I agree that we need to be talking about a long-term solution, and that is equally as important as to the short-term that we're talking about now. I guess I would just say, as far as the long-term, the reason why the long-term solutions evade us is not because there's a lack of will, it's because there's a lack of money. If we could fix long-term housing and homelessness issues, we'd have fixed them. If anybody could just fix them, we wouldn't have this issue. I mean, at $300,000 to $500,000 an apartment, depending on where you build and how you build, I mean, we're talking about $30 to $50 million for 100 apartments, and if we're not collecting enough rent to cover the debt on that $30 to $50 million over the course of 30 or 40 years, the project would go bankrupt and the apartments would be condemned, and we would just be furthering and facilitating the cycles of homelessness by having people be evicted by some creditor or some bank. And so, $50 million is almost twice the city's budget. So it's not that we're not trying to be generous or accommodating or helpful. It's that we literally cannot afford to fix this problem by ourselves. And to some of the speakers' comments, the county's got, $1.5 billion budget. Discretionary funds, I think it's something like 400 million. Most of it's programmed from the state and the federal government. But, the county has a lot of money available and a lot of resources available. But at the end of the day, if they're not providing them to our community, somebody has to do it, or it's not going to happen at all. And we've been down this road recently, so I won't belabor the point. But I think this is a decent plan, but I am aware that it is a plan made for people instead of a plan made with people. And I'm interested, I'm not seeing an exigency to move people from Roberts Lake. And while I think that the plan that Councilmember Campbell has presented, now that we've had the opportunity to flesh it out and really talk it through, I think it's viable, but I'm not sure that there's a big rush to do it. And I would like to, I don't know if we can form an ad hoc committee or host a town hall, a Zoom town hall between a council member or the council's designee and the city manager and the community of Roberts Lake, so that they can talk to us about now that they've had the benefit of hearing this plan in its totality. Like I'm hesitant to rush into a decision, even no matter how good it may be at this point. So I have some reservations, and I think that we are close to something that could be agreeable, but I don't know that we're 100% there. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right. Madam City Attorney.
I don't have anything to add.
No, I want to, I think it was a motion made and a second. And so we went down that road. You want us to go through, or you want us just to back out and ask for direction, or what?
Either city manager has a preference, sounds like.
Okay, city manager.
Mayor and council, I would understand a vote on the motion to be the direction. I'll also say, we're going to discuss a related matter tomorrow night. And staff can take direction tonight or tomorrow night at the council's pleasure.
And I would just add, there's actually more than one item related to this tomorrow night. There's the ordinance, there's the resolution designating a day, if that's where the council goes for the ordinance. And then the second item that is there is the city manager's proclamation, which rescinded the overnight parking. And there's a ratification resolution. So there are a couple of different places that this issue will come back, and we can fix the proclamation with direction for tomorrow night, if that's the will of the council.
And while I appreciate the city attorney's explanation of the three different ways that the council could discuss it tomorrow, I'll just note that there are other topics on the agenda tomorrow, and staff can take direction this evening and move forward.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Hold on, I come to you, Councilman Campbell. That's what I was looking for as city manager. We'll move the motion forward as some type of direction if it goes forward. Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you. I strongly urge the council to give direction at a minimum, if not an actual outright action, to pursue this. And obviously, if tomorrow night the proclamation and everything else fails, then there is no urgency, no longer an urgency to this direction, the way I see it. But I would like us to move forward with a plan and go from there. So I would really appreciate the council to give direction on this, clear direction. Thank you.
Okay, I would just say I want to thank Councilmember Campbell for bringing this forward, asking for a special meeting to have this discussion, and the location that you came up with. I don't know how many of us heard about that before you mentioned it, but I didn't, so that was interesting. I had thought that maybe you did reach out to members of the park over there, but they said you did not. But when you talk about a long-term plan, this thing came about the ordinance for asking them to move on from Roberts Lake was because it was time for them to move on, and we needed to go in there. Then I believe the governor's so-called shelter in place, even though it was not required shelter in place, it just pulled back from the in-dining restaurants and barbershops and salons and things like that. But when we talk about long-term, are we talking about leaving the vehicles at Roberts Lake for another 4 months? And so that's what I have to understand. I do appreciate the people that talked about the tourism. I don't think we're putting tourism above the people at the Roberts Lake. But I did think the Mayor Pro Tem made a good point about we do get a significant amount of money from our tourism. And so we have to remain vigilant about welcoming people to our community. That doesn't mean we mistreat our residents. So I don't think anyone from the council is looking at it that way. And so I just wanted to mention that. The guy from the county or the One Star Fish program said that they have a waiting list, but he would like to do more. I think we need to ask the city manager to write a letter to the county asking them, is there any additional county land that can be used for these type programs? And I think we need to, again, write all the other cities on the peninsula and ask them, do they have the ability, the want, or need to have an encampment or a camp on some of their land. And then I think the city manager is also working on the total amount of monies we spent or spend on trying to solve the homeless solution. And I know it can't be solved overnight, but working towards using resources to better their lives. City manager, how close are you on that data? I think we asked for that. I asked for that about a week and a half ago.
The finance director supplied it today, and I can share it with the council at this moment. The city city spent about $167,000 on homeless program last year. So that's not including direct services, like police officers, firefighters, to home and public works to homeless individuals. But $167,000 was expended last year, and we budgeted about 145,000 this year. I'm sorry, 140,000 this year.
Okay. Does that include the cleanup?
Yes, it does. Yeah, we spent $132,000 on cleanup services last year, and we budgeted 100,000 this year. So I don't know if we'll meet that budget. We'll probably exceed that budget.
I guess my last question is, have we made well, I know we haven't, it's hard to do, but I would just ask again that the city look at making more requests for grant funds from the Coalition for Homeless Service Providers. There have funds coming in, but we do need to put in those grant requests. So I don't know how many are open now, but I'm saying as the council is looking forward, we can also give the mayor, the city manager clear instructions to be on the lookout for any and all grants.
I wrote a
A
few.
lot of that money is making it to, say again, city manager?
Last year, we didn't get the HEAP grant. Partnered with some nonprofits in the community and spent a couple weekends on that.
Yeah, I know, and that was something that was mentioned a little earlier. Yeah, maybe we'll just talk about it tomorrow too. We have a lot on the agenda, but I want to get to it's a lot of money in the coalition of homeless service providers, and that money goes to those nonprofits, and some of those nonprofits are in Seaside, some of them are other places. But these are the resources. When I hear people speak passionately about assisting those without shelter, those that are literally homeless, and those that are living in their vehicles, and those that are living in RVs, and they need assistance. It is organizations out there giving assistance. Some of them are maximized out, and some of them could do more. But how do we link the individuals with the RVs and living in their cars with these nonprofits? So I guess we're at the roll. We'll call for the vote. Is there anybody that wanted to speak? So we'll call for the. I'm sorry, Council Member Kaspersky. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make clear. I think I would support the move for the 120 days, but what I would request then is within these 120 days that we develop a process. You know, perhaps we call the homeless commission that we already have together. Perhaps we reach out to CHISPA and some of those other organizations and get everybody in a room and talk about, you know, have them propose to us some actual long-term options. That would sort of be my condition for supporting this. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell.
Thank you. Yes, I am completely in support of that condition, that we look at a long-term solution and bring together the nonprofits who do this all the time, the One Starfish and Orphan, and hear what they say. And then also I truly believe that after talking to some other council members and representatives of a supervisor, that there is some regional interest in providing regional funding for a regional solution. So I think we should pursue that in earnest. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Mayor Pro Tem? That's okay. All right, let's call for the roll call.
Councilmember Kaspersky,
Aye.
Councilmember Wizard,
No.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Pacheco,
Aye.
Mayor Oglesby.
I abstain.
Motion passes 3, 1 no, 1 abstention.
Okay. All right, so now we're at adjournment.
So moved.
We stand at adjournment. Thank you guys. Wear your mask out there and stay away from 6 feet away from other people.